Let's go and move with life. Let it go. Something new tonight. Let's go and move with life. Let it go. Something new tonight.
G'day guys, welcome to the Unofficial Scorecard Podcast, a podcast where we talk all things boxing and occasionally the wider world of combat sports. This is episode 79, and on today's episode, guys, I am joined once again by the man known as Lukie Boxing. It's Luke Ketelle. So guys, I did an episode with Lukie back in December, but was riddled with technical difficulties in terms of the video, so I said to him, mate, I'll have to solve these issues and get you back on, and that was today. So I had an awesome chat with Lukie, got the video up, it's all up and running, which is quite a relief, I'll say that. But guys, you know Lukie from his long tenure in the boxing game. He's been embedded in multiple world training camps, he's a contributor at boxingscene.com, and he has his own platform, Lukie Boxing, on Substack. He's also got the podcast and also the YouTube channel as well. So guys, it's always a ton of fun to talk to Lukie. He's had me on his show before. I feel like he's got an unmatched knowledge of the game, first-hand experience in the gym with world-class fighters. So to that point, it was great to get into an excellent fight, which only happened 24 hours ago. Raymond, Muratalla, and Andy Cruz, plus the undercard. We also picked Lukie's brain about the debut Zuffa Boxing event, and also the shocking news of Zuffa signing Australia's own Jai Opetaia. Then guys, of course, next weekend is absolutely loaded with Teofimo Lopez defending his 140-pound title against Shakur, Stevenson. Some really good fights on the undercard. Also that same weekend, Bahkram Murtazaliev returns to defend his title against Josh Kelly in the UK, with also Aussie Taylor Jensen on that undercard in a hell of a fight too. Big ask, but let's go Team Australia. And also a WBO and WBA 154-pound unification between Xander, Zayas and Abass Baraou. Guys, tons to talk about in this, so let's get to the good stuff and get to the chat now. All right, well, you know my next guest from his long tenure covering the sport, from being embedded in multiple world title training camps to currently contributing to one of the biggest boxing websites in the world, boxingscene.com. He has his own Substack, podcast, and YouTube platform. Just search Lukie Boxing and you can't miss it. For the second time, it's returning mate of the show, Luke Ketelle. Lukie, thanks for coming back on, mate.
Hey, you always do such good intros, bro. Thank you for making me sound so professional, and it's a pleasure.
Oh, man, it's awesome to chat. Well, let's get straight into it, mate. And yeah, last time we had a technical issue with the video. That's why we couldn't get the video out for that one. I think I've fixed it, so we'll see how we go, but only time will tell. But let's get into the fights, mate. So we're only 24 hours removed from an absolutely sensational world title fight for the IBF lightweight title between Raymond Muratalla and Andy Cruz. It's been universally praised. I'm assuming you will probably only have more praise to heap on it, mate. What did you think of this fight that went down, about 24 hours ago?
I mean, it's just one of these fights where, let me just go on a ramble.
Please.
So it's a fight where there's a world where the winner of this fight becomes the most important lightweight of this generation as of right now. There's a world because Gervonta Davis, who knows what's going on, but it doesn't seem like he's taking a pro boxing fight soon. The fight we're going to talk about later today is Shakur Stevenson, Teofimo Lopez. Who knows if Shakur comes back? I saw a quote, I didn't check the source or whatever, and that can be scary in the modern era if you don't do research, where it said he might come back, he might not, but there's a chance he doesn't come back. So the winner of this fight and Abdullah Mason are the two most accomplished fighters. They're the two winning world champion fighters. And not unlike Abdullah Mason's fight against Sam Noakes, it was a championship fight that felt like a championship fight. It merited the stage, the main event platform, and for the distinction that went with this. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And it's one of these fights where you have to kind of know something to like it, I feel. I think 15 years ago, I would have loved this fight. It would have been one of my favorite. I loved scoring fights. Now I couldn't care less. But I used to love to get a piece of paper out and be 10-9, 10. And now I more watch them. I'm not as good at scoring them, to be perfectly honest. The eyes aren't as sharp. But what stood out to me, and I'd be curious to get your perception of this, it felt like Cruz would win a round, Muratalla would win a round. Muratalla would win a round, Cruz would win a round. It felt as though no one really overtook the momentum. And I guess I'll steal some of my thunder and be a bad guest. It felt as though Muratalla always was controlling the fight, even when he wasn't necessarily winning the rounds. It felt as though he was the general. He was the one engaging. He was the one he always had an edge, it felt like. And in the end, he wins the fight. But that's my initial kind of thoughts into this. What did you think?
Yeah, well, I was so excited for this fight going in, and I didn't really have like a breakdown of it on the last episode that we did, but I have said it publicly, I guess. I expected Andy Cruz to blow my mind. I thought we were going to see the best version of him that we'd ever seen, and obviously all credit in the world to Raymond Muratalla being by far the best fighter he's been in with. I thought that would only elevate Andy's level, and I thought he was going to be spectacular. And he was. I thought he was brilliant. I think that's the best version of Andy we've ever seen. But I underestimated Raymond Muratalla. I thought, I totally agree with you. It was very nip and tuck. It was a super close fight. Every round was competitive. Also very similar to you, Lukie. I hate scoring fights. If I'm going to score a fight, it just takes away the enjoyment of it for me. So if someone wants to pay me, sure, I'll score it. But if I'm just sitting on the couch trying to enjoy my favorite sport, I couldn't care less about scoring. But it felt to me it was 10 after 10 rounds, it was 5 each. But I felt like Muratalla just did more in those championship rounds, and that was sort of the difference for me. But again, I didn't get the notepad out and actually numerically figure it out. But yeah, I was expecting Andy Cruz, and it sort of looked like early he was throwing that beautiful jab to the body. He gauged that range really well. I thought it was the sort of pot shotting and the ability to punch on the fly and change angles from Andy Cruz, and just that physicality and the underrated, at least from my point of view, the footwork of Muratalla. I thought he was going to be too flat-footed and too slow. His footwork certainly, and his patience. He never overcommitted. He was getting countered a fair bit, but he never got too out of pocket and went too hard and really opened himself up to Andy Cruz. That sort of would have fallen into Andy's game plan and strengths a little bit more than that if he had have chosen to go that way. But no, I thought it was an absolutely brilliant fight. I really think there's no loser in this fight, and I can't wait to see what happens for either guy next, mate. So what did you think before this fight started going in? What were you expecting to see?
Kind of this. That's why I was so excited. I'd seen a lot of Muratalla in his development. I remember in 2023, Jose Ramirez and Sinise Estrada were main event, co-main event of a top-ranked card in Fresno. It was actually the same day as David Benavidez versus Caleb Plant, and the whole world wanted to watch that, but I was in attendance at the Jose Ramirez Estrada fight, and I remember Muratalla went down. He fought a good puncher. I'm blanking on his name, but I see him fight a lot of developmental prospects. And the way he responded being knocked down, he got back, and he's always had amazing foot pressure, angles. I first kind of really started taking a keen eye on him when he was in the bubble. And the thing with Muratalla that I've always remembered, and going back to what I said, was Robert Garcia told me that he was the next Bam out of the gym, which at the time, they really, really believed in him. Muratalla flies under the radar because he's a terrible interview. He's not going to say anything interesting. He's very soft-spoken. He's just a really tough guy who's going to give you very boring, bland answers. But as a fighter, he isn't. And the problem is we're in a personality-driven boxing world where the personalities rise to the top. And Muratalla is just kind of like this old school guy who's down to fight you. He's a tough man, but he's not going to wow you with sensational trash talk. So I think that he came in under the radar because his world title win was against, I believe, a vacant fight over Zaire Abdullayev. It wasn't a big watched fight. It wasn't one of these fights where people circled it. And I think that people just didn't have a familiarity with him. He'd had a couple of fights that were tough for him. He fought Johnny the Wasp, and that wasn't a very good performance, but I think that was an outlier performance. Something was there. And he had some issues with Tevin Farmer, but he solved that problem. And I think that I'm really high on Andy Cruz, and I still think he could be the guy in the division at some point. But there also is this romanticism with Cuban boxers that they're going to just be able to do anything they want. And most Cuban boxers are terrible on the inside. That's just like a universal truth. Like Guillermo Rigondeaux versus Vasyl Lomachenko was decided by infighting because Rigondeaux didn't really have an answer when Lomachenko broke the distance. Cruz at times, to me, just looked like he wasn't physically strong enough and wasn't able to be creative enough when the fight got away from a long distance. Like, he's good at the distance, he's good at mid-range, but once they got in close, didn't seem like he had a ton of stuff.
Yeah, no, that's a great observation, mate. And it seemed like that was what, and it should come as no surprise, bloody Robert Garcia's on an absolute tear. But if it was him, the whole team, if it was collaborative, whatever the game plan was, it was a brilliant one. And they identified that weakness in Andy Cruz, and with that consistent front foot pressure, always cutting off the ring but not getting too overzealous, they were able to put Andy Cruz in spots where he was uncomfortable. And the brilliance of Andy Cruz still shone with his countering ability. But the thing I was so impressed with Muratalla, and again, I didn't think he had the feet, and I didn't think he had the patience to do it. I haven't seen as much of him as you have, excuse me. So I was sort of basing my assessments of his capabilities maybe off the last 2 or 3 fights I've seen of him. So I haven't sort of seen him learn the lessons coming up through the ranks like you have. But yeah, a lot of other fighters would have got too overzealous in that close fight, sort of in the mid to later rounds, and really tried to put their stamp of authority down, where I felt like the seasoning and the professional experience of Muratalla was starting to, and his mental discipline was starting to come into the fore, not overcommitting. They knew that that's what Andy wanted him to do, so he could take advantage of and create angles and use that brilliant countering ability and that timing and that special eye that he's got. But they just kept to the game plan. They put one foot in front of the other. They round minute by minute, round by round, and I think it really paid off in the end. I mean, those championship rounds for me were the difference. Are you sort of more leading to kind of a draw in this fight, Lukie, or what were you thinking when the bell for the 12th round, the final bell rung?
Muratalla won this fight to me. I think it was 115, 113, but I didn't think 118, 110 was a bad card.
Okay.
I think that Muratalla did a lot of forward pressure, and it comes down to what you're scoring, because I think there's an argument to be made. Cruz might have been busier in throwing, but how effective were his shots? Because Muratalla was seemingly landing the more effective, harder shots in each and every round that seemed to have more work rate. But there's always going to be, like with Muratalla, he's an interesting guy. There's always going to be these narratives that people just throw out there that aren't fascinating, that aren't really true. There's a story about, if he's weight drained. Well, I think that was like one fight he looked weight drained, but it's because he doesn't talk and he's not a good interview. Then we're going to do the weight drain thing. And now it's going to be like, wow, I don't like this 118, 110 scorecard. It's probably not great, but I get how we got there. It's not like an egregious, horrible one. A lot of what I was seeing was, I'm giving Cruz rounds on volume and activity, but these are 50-50 rounds. So if someone's seeing every 50-50 round from Muratalla, Cruz didn't, I think that I don't see how Cruz could have won this fight, to be perfectly honest.
When the last bell went, and again, I thought it was that 7-5 without numerically scoring it for Muratalla, the championship rounds being the difference. But before anyone's hand was raised, I was like, geez, it was close. Every round was tight. It's going to be subjective. It's probably going to be some sort of controversy, as these type of fights always tend to deliver. But in my head, I was like, I think a draw might be as generous as you could possibly be to Andy Cruz, and that's giving him every benefit of the doubt. Whereas, the 118, 110 is giving Muratalla every benefit of the doubt too. But no, I thought the right man won. It doesn't seem to be a lot of controversy. Even the hardcore, outside of the hardcore Cuban fans, I should say, I'm pretty sure they felt like they were robbed. But it begs the question, again, I sort of mentioned, for me personally as a fan, there was no loser in this fight. I thought Andy Cruz fought brilliantly. He's going to learn an absolute ton moving forward. I thought Muratalla impressed the hell out of me. I feel like, he's got a super credible first title defense / world title winning effort, if we can take into consideration that vacant title that he fought for. But he's certainly announced himself on the world stage, at least in my opinion. What would you like to see next for both guys?
Okay, that's a great question. So Muratalla is the trickier one, but let me go and give you an actual answer for him. For Andy Cruz, I know who I want to see him in with. Hector Tananahara was a really promising, top-rated amateur guy who was with Golden Boy, lost to William Zepeda. I think he had a draw with Miguel Contreras, and then he's kind of fallen off. He was supposed to fight Andy Cruz at some point. That feels like a great fight to revisit. is a battle between Tanahara and Andy Cruz. Cruz probably needs a level back in competition. Wouldn't hurt him to be in a 10-round fight against a veteran. And for Tanahara, he's a guy with a deep pedigree that's kind of disappeared. So that's a fight that I'd like to see now for Muratalla. Let me get to this weight class. So IBF champion. I mean, the guys that I would be interested in seeing him fight. Okay, I'm not sure this is going to be everyone's cup of tea, and they might say that, like, what are you thinking here? But the three that come to my mind as kind of interesting bouts that aren't repeats are Justin Paldo, who's been fighting on Pro Box TV, ranked number 15. Josh Padley is a guy who's kind of got some momentum. It'd be interesting to see him in there. But the one I'd like to see is Albert Bell, who's been kind of a undefeated boogeyman-like boxer that no one's really gone out of their way to fight. And he had a similar style to Andy Cruz. So I don't know what direction, but I mean, I think in terms of a good action fight, Justin Paldo is the most interesting. But in terms of like a what's going to happen fight, I'd say Albert Bell.
Damn. Okay. Well, my sort of glass half full pure optimism style call was a 4-man tournament if we can get Muratalla in with either Tank or Abdullah Mason and Andy Cruz fight the other, and then the winners fight off and the losers fight off, which I'd love to see, because I really don't think Andy Cruz lost anything in that fight. I think he proved he's right at that world level. Like, you know, again, we've talked about how close that fight was. It wasn't like he got thoroughly dominated in any particular round. He just got that slightly bit shaded in the rounds he wasn't able to do enough in. So I still, again, I wouldn't mind seeing, to your point, Andy jump down a level. And Tanahara is a guy that I have completely fallen off the radar on. I haven't followed him for ages, actually. So what has Tanahara been up to lately, Lukie?
Let's check his box rec. I'm sure he's probably taking on some things. I'm going to be curious about like what Cruz's career goes from, where it goes from here. Like, he's since the draw with Contreras, he's had 3 wins, all in San Antonio. His last fight was in June 2024, and so I mean that would be a fight that I'd like to visit. But I mean, do you think there's a subplot to this fight? Was Robert Garcia beat Bozy Ennis? There's the big coveted fight, Boots Ennis versus. Do you think there's any blowback with Cruz? Do you think he stays with Bozy Ennis? Do you think like sometimes guys lose and they're with new trainers and they go, you know what, I'm going to go to this next trainer? Do you think there's anything like that? Is that something you're thinking about?
Not at all. I mean, that pairing kind of did shock me when it first was announced, the link up between Andy Cruz and Team Ennis. But it was kind of a bit of a perplexing one. I feel like, you know, just going by Boots, who, you know, is huge at the weight, seems to just spam people with athleticism and power shots. He's not really like a fundamental based guy, at least if he has that ability. He hasn't really shown us that. I'm sure he does have it, but he's more the type of guy that's just going to spam you with a lot of stuff and see what sticks and, you know, go with that and try and get you out of there. So, and I don't mean to downplay his talent or ability. He's an incredible fighter, but
he's phenomenal.
Yeah, I always thought like an Ismail Salas or someone like that would be better for Andy Cruz. Someone who's going to be more able to devise game plans that are more sort of steeped in fundamentals and plan A, plan B, plan C. It seems like Team Ennis rely on their athleticism and their creativity a lot. I mean, I'm probably judging it really harshly. So that pairing I always found a little perplexing when it was first made, but the results speak for themselves. I mean, but I guess the short answer to your question is no. That never even occurred to me at all, mate. So I have to throw the same question back to you, Lukie. Do you think there could be some blowback with Cruz and Team Ennis?
I think it's something to monitor, right? Because Fulton lost a fight and now Cruz lost a fight. But then Jack Catterall won and Boots won. I think that like gyms are like momentums, and gyms, when they get a lot of people, it's like relationships. You get breakups because when you get too many people in the gym, not everybody's going to work. And when you get people that didn't grow up in the gym or weren't close with the gym, it's more of a business relationship. So it's not about how do you feel about these guys. If something goes wrong, Every loss, whether a fighter says it or not, they're going to blame somebody.
Yeah.
It's just the facts. They're going to say, okay, this wasn't. And a lot of times that's a trainer, a strength coach, or a manager, or whoever. Like it's going to be someone that probably had great intentions for the fighter. But this is what people don't think about with fighting. Nothing about being a fighter is rational. There's nothing about it. Like you could be a janitor and make the same amount of money as a boxer and not have to endure the same amount of damage. Like the idea of creating a career and financial stability through boxing is kind of insane. And then a lot of times we sit on these Zoom calls because we love the sport and we go, yeah, let's just sit down here and break it down like this is reasonable. So I think sometimes what I look at is you're dealing with people who think that they're the main character in their own movie, and they are. And they probably are uber confident and they're unhappy with something. And when guys like Cruz or top name guys lose and they're not raised in that gym, it's something to watch. It's something to watch the relationship and how things are going, because I think the strength of that gym Bosie's built is the community. I think they've built a community, and I think more so than just the training is they've built a culture of let's work hard, and they do their stuff, whatever. It's clear it's a world-class gym because they can compete at the world-class stage, but it seems like the overarching theme is if you're in Philly, that's the place to go to work hard. That's the place to go if you're the elite guy. I think the thing that would be the red flag for me would be, I think Cruz lives in Florida and does his camps in Philly. If after this fight we start to see Cruz in Florida more, I think we have to start to wonder where's the potential. Like, does a guy like this start to sacrifice lefts after a loss? These are things I'm just kind of workshopping in my head, but I think they're things to think about.
Oh, absolutely, mate. That narrative never even occurred to me at all, and certainly something to keep in the back of our minds moving forward. Going to be an interesting thing to follow for the rest of the year and the next couple of months, especially with Andy Cruz's future. But in summary, brilliant fight. Absolutely loved it. Great way to start the year. But mate, let's just jump into the undercard for a little bit. We had I'll just be totally honest, two absolutely horrific, in my opinion, 10-rounders. Some real tough watches between Khalil Coe and Jesse Hart and Israel Madrimov and Luis Salazar. Am I being too harsh? What were your thoughts on these two fights, Lukie?
I mean, Khalil Coe has to be a more mature person to be viewed as a world-class fighter. He missed weight by 182 pounds for a 175-pound light heavyweight bout. He lost a point based on maturity off of frustration and throwing him. The fight between Khalil Coe and Jesse Hart, if we're being honest, felt like a 2,300 arena Philly main event. And you got two coaches that I really like from Philly who are coaching, but they also have an internet presence. And it's kind of like a good regional big city fight where probably all the players at large think it's a world-class boxing fight, but it just kind of isn't. But you're from a big city, you're a big fish in a small pond, and it kind of felt like both guys were emotionally drained. And they had so much chitter because you think about it, the guys that get to action often don't talk much. And this fight just felt like there was so much emotion. I thought Jesse Hart probably won the fight. It was a very bad fight. I think that Hart kind of wins in a loss because he's an older fighter that, took a fight with the guy coming in overweight and did okay until he gassed out. And for Khalil Coe, I mean, to me, this was extremely disappointing. You miss weight, and he throws maybe 200 punches over the course of 10 rounds. I mean, this is just simply not world championship boxing. And you can't look at that and go, man, that guy's going to compete with Bivol or Better Beeve or David Benavidez throwing so few punches. It's just, and then on top of that, the power didn't seem to be this game-changing power too, where Jesse Hart has fought between super middleweight and light heavyweight. This isn't a career light heavyweight too. So that's concerning. And with Madrimov, he's up and down his whole career. So we could call Madrimov, I'll give him a nickname on your show. We'll call him the Seesaw because he goes up and down, right? There's nights where he looks like a world beater, And there's nights he does 10 rounds with guys you've never heard of. And this was one of those nights. And he's one of the more inconsistent fighters we've ever seen. His pro debut against Vladimir Hernandez, I go, wow, this is a guy. And then he had a fight at middleweight where he looked atrocious. And then he bounces back and he comes. So who knows what that is. But for me, Madrimov, I've given up trying to understand when his good performances are and when his bad performances are. It seems like he fights better to a higher level of competition. But this was a fight where if you had a good book or a movie on, after 3 rounds, you should have probably gone to that.
Yeah, I went out and washed my car. So they just were good fun. I'm probably with Madrimov, and that is such a good nickname, the Seesaw. I'm definitely going to steal that off you, but I will give you credit anytime I use it.
No, we created it together.
No, you created it, mate, but I'll happily steal it. But my whole thing with him, his entire career, is just he's so awkward. And with all respect, I respect every fighter that gets in the ring. I respect Khalil Coe, Jesse Hart. It's sport. Sometimes, whatever, you get 2 teams in ice hockey, they play each other. The style clash is just really frustrating to watch. You get good games, you get bad games. You get good fights, you get bad fights. I just thought they were bad fights stylistically. But the whole thing with Madrimov is he's so unorthodox and awkward to the point of just being straight up goofy. I'm not saying he's not talented and his style isn't effective, but I just, aesthetically, I just find it so unpleasing to the point of frustration. I just can't watch his fights. So
I'd like to add to that too. So I just think he's a professional amateur. So there's not like when he gets a guy hurt, he has things. But a lot of what's hard about it is he's really, that Uzbek style of fighting is not really fun to watch. It's kind of like the modern Cuban style where it's scoring points but staying elusive and avoiding people. It's kind of, to compare it to basketball, if you're a basketball guy, it's like a guy that dribbles in the same spot but can do a bunch of good dribble moves, but you're not scoring points. You're not doing anything, right? So it's a lot of times I'm Dreamoff, it's he's doing all this stuff and it's not really leading to anything. It's not leading to action. It's not exciting. And the problem is he probably thinks it's this really steezy, cool looking stuff. Man, I just did this sweet move. And it's unless he's pressed or I think that with him, if his power doesn't hold up, it's a rough hang. And if he gets into cruise control, it's a rough hang. The drama for his fights come to me when it's a guy who could knock him out. And it's how is he going to handle the power? That's really when his fights are compelling is how is he going to do that? Or if he's going to try to out chess match a thinker like Crawford. But even that wasn't he's kind of like a guy who tries to offset you and make a fight ugly. He's a spoiler.
Yeah, no, mate, that's a great analogy with the basketball as well. Hopefully get a bit more excitement next time out of Israel Madrimov, excuse me.
Just call him the Seesaw. The Seesaw.
Yeah, there we go.
When
exactly.
The Seesaw gets back in, hopefully he's on a high and not on a low.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see how we go. But, mate, just 2 quick more on this undercard. Guys I saw for the first time, which I'm sure you're much more familiar with than me, Amari Jones, and I didn't even know this. Yeah, and Shakur Stevenson's cousin, Zaquin Moses. My first time watching both guys. Very impressed. Developing talents. I'm sure you've seen them a hell of a lot more than me. What did you make of these development fights for them, Lukie?
So Omari's really good. I'm doing my awards. I do monthly awards because I'm a loser, and he's probably my prospect of the month for this month, right? And why I say that is his development is impressive. He had 4 straight knockouts. In this fight, he fights a guy who's undefeated. A guy who probably wasn't on his level, but had an amazing story and came with the conviction to win. He really came to win. He had a really tragic last year where he lost, I believe, his mom and his sister to cancer, and our heart goes out to him because that's something I don't think anyone should experience in one calendar year. And for him to get into a fight like this was a tremendous achievement because many people don't get there. And for Omari to fight a fighter with so much emotion, coming to win, and to fight composed, to not break from what he's doing. I think there's things to me that impress me about Omari that don't impress others. He stays in his boxing stance a lot. And that takes a lot of maturity for a young fighter to consistently do that and not break and go for walks. He's very, very composed at an early age. and I think he's developing nicely. So for me, I actually interviewed him, I think in 2021 after he won nationals. So he jokes that I was one of his first interviews, and he's
cool.
always felt like Errol Spence to me. When I talked to Errol Spence back in the day, Omari is a spitting image of a young Errol Spence, not how he fights, but how he talks. And I truly believe he has some superstar potential because of his extreme confidence he has. Zaquan Moses is an amazing amateur. I think he turned pro last year, or maybe, no, 2 years ago, I think. I think it was 2020. No, it was 2024. I think he turned off the top of my head, I think was when he turned pro. And he's someone I was thinking about today where I watched his fight. And I believe if you look at BoxRec, I think the big story was he beat Cromell Moulton. Facts matter. So let me do the research on this because facts matter and we shouldn't just say things as much as I just want to say things because it's easy to be lazy and my back hurts and all this stuff no one cares about, right? But I'm pretty sure he beat Cromell Moulton and there's like a little rivalry going on there, or he won the national. Let's see. So he did beat Cromell Moulton March 2023. He beat Cromell Moulton. So that's kind of like his big thing. And they've done some teen drama IG clips that are really cringy where they're like standing next to each other and there's people behind them giggling like, oh my God, these two fighters are talking to each other. This is so fascinating. But he's making that leap from being a good amateur to a developmental fighter. And he's doing a good job at it, but he's like, Omari's at a different level of development, if we're being honest. I think Zaquan has a ton of potential, but it's going to be a little bit slower, and there's nothing wrong with that because he's jumping into the pros with maybe he has the same amount of amateur fights, but I don't even know. And you're like, why are you going on a heater right here? And I have to sneeze and all this stuff, but he's 20 years old. And he's never had, as far as I can see, international competition amateur bouts. So you have a 20-year-old who's basically every time he fights, he's going to be compared to Shakur Stevenson, who's one of the United States' best boxers of the last decade, right? Young fighters. So that's pretty high standard. I think that he's doing just fine. It's like he's winning fights. He's looking good. I don't think he's lost around as a professional, which is good. But it's like I'm also thinking about in maybe July is when we start to see him in fights with guys like Edwin Rodriguez, a good journeyman who's beaten guys like Saul Sanchez. Like I'd kind of like to see him start to go there, but I think he's a fighter that, to answer your question, in 15 to 20 fights is when he'll challenge for a belt rather than like maybe 12 to 14 when kind of those top-notch prospects do.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go, mate. No, thanks for sharing, Lukie. They certainly caught my eye, and some guys to keep an eye on moving forward, which is a ton of fun. But let's jump into one of the other events of the weekend, mate. And I guess this is more of a broader question. It was the much talked about Zuffa Boxing debut show. A lot of people tuned in just purely out of curiosity. I was one of them. I thought the fights were okay. There was a really good fight to open up the main card. I missed a little bit of the very opening of the undercard, which I'm sure you caught. But just as a whole, what did you make of the debut Zuffa Boxing event?
So mixed bag. I did a news bag type thing reaction. I thought that the pacing of the card was good. Mm-hmm. I thought that in a way the fights got worse and worse over time. I thought my favorite fight was Troy Nash Jr. versus Jacob Ramos. I believe that was his name. And then Robert Merriweather had a good performance. And then we had a lot of lulls. And then Omar Trinidad had a good performance. And then I thought Julian Rodriguez looked sensational against Kane Sandoval. And then Misael Rodriguez fought a guy that didn't have an amateur career, and he was a Olympic bronze medalist. So that fight kind of went how we expected that to go, even though the records were good. And then Callum Walsh just had a really uneventful fight. So I think they've got to figure out who they put at the top of these cards, the pacing structure, and just some of the cultural norms. There's a level of, I want to identify talent as a viewer, and maybe I just want you to guide me through the fight as opposed to being told how sensational this is. So I think it's good. I'm not coming in with a negative attitude, but I don't think that it's going to be I snap my fingers and Zuffa takes over boxing. I think there's going to be awkward moments. I think that like performance bonuses are a weird thing for me to wrap my head around. The idea of a bonus based around that. I just think that it's what all first shows kind of are. It's like there's an idea. The one thing I will say is it felt very corporate. It felt more corporate than most boxing events you see. And I watched a fight that for the love of God, hope you didn't, but it was Azat Hovhannissian in the LA.
I didn't see
it. Yeah, exactly. Of course. Like, this shows how fun I am. And there's a level of like jankiness to regional boxing fights that I missed from the Zuffa. So can they either get the production down where I'm like, I start to feel like if a production isn't on that level that it's weird, or are they going to have to like kind of make some accommodations? Because I think that it's going to be, and I think the dates are a little weird. So this one was on Friday and the next one's on Sunday. Do you think, like, I'm not seeing a lot of advertising. I'm also older, so I don't know what's targeted. I don't have Instagram right now. Do you think a lot of boxing fans are going to be aware? Is this more tailored to a casual interest person? I'm starting to wonder, unless there's a big name or an interesting division fighter, are some of these cards just going to happen? And then if there's something interesting that happens, it lives on via social media? I'm not really sure the direction just yet.
Yeah, well, mate, I can't really talk about American boxing fans or sort of how it will go there, but I know internationally, having fights on a Sunday is a complete disaster because that's Monday for us and everyone's at work. So maybe they're just sort of focusing on the American market specifically, and they'll worry about the international stuff as they grow as a business and a promotion. I'm not sure, but yeah, I've seen a lot of conflicting stuff. To your point, I loved the pacing. I thought that was excellent. Everyone needs to get on board and copy that. That was fantastic. We're watching a boxing event. We want to watch fights. We don't care about going to the desk and hearing 25,000 people's opinion on the fight we literally just saw with our own eyes. Just bring the next fight out. Let's go. Loved that. Hated the uniforms. I'm assuming with the uniforms that fighters aren't allowed to have their own sponsors now either, which I know is the same in the UFC. That really, I don't know. Saying that, oh, look, we're going to give fighters more upfront money, we've got a bonus structure, all that type of thing, but you're also taking away an avenue that fighters could earn extra money. Historically, I feel very conflicted about that. Excuse me. I guess time will tell. I know it's not massively popular in the MMA scene when the UFC took away guys' abilities to make sponsorship dollars. So, yeah, I really didn't like that. I'm sort of with you. I'm not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater just yet, but it felt weird. Max Callum's commentary was like... It felt like a first
episode. It felt like, okay, this is everything we workshopped, and then some of the stuff didn't work. I thought some of the vignettes, I love the idea of storytelling, but then when there's a guy who has an obvious talent disadvantage and you try to present it as a 50-50 fight with two narrative arcs, it just kind of is weird when the guy gets hit in the head and has double vision and the fight just, was over rather quickly. I just think that when you promise something new and you have to rely on old traditions, you just have to be around for a while, right? Because you're probably like, boxing's something where you can't really reinvent it. You just have to kind of make great, compelling fights and hope that the fighters that are a part of your fights go on to achieve great things. So I think it's an interesting concept. I'm enjoying it so far. My gut feeling just is, though, I feel like there's an undercurrent of people in boxing that are like they're coming to take over. And I just don't see it happening right away because it's like these are Friday and Sunday night cards. I talked to a few people. I watched the whole card, but they missed it. They were like, oh, I was looking for it Saturday. So it's going to take time. And I also think there's a cultural difference between a UFC fan and a boxing fan. And the things at a boxing event that people think are a big time deal mean nothing to me. They showed celebrities in the crowd that I didn't know. Like, here's this guy. I don't know him. Doesn't mean anything. It doesn't make it feel like a big fight. And finally, I'll say it felt like a bubble atmosphere.
Yes.
The COVID-19. Yes. So there needs to be, I think one thing that they really got to figure out is how do they get, part of what makes boxing is the atmosphere of the fans who want to support fighters and the energy that comes from the support of the crowd. And it really felt like in that main event, there wasn't that much energy cooking for an Irish fighter that really should have the room rocking. So that it just doesn't, it feels like in a year, we're not going to have this same, it's not going to look this way. Like it's going to change a lot.
Yeah. Well, I have to ask you about this as a biased Australian, Lukie. I would say the biggest signing that Zuffa have made so far. They've signed Jai Opetaia. And Jai's going to be fighting on March 8th in a cruiserweight unification against WBC champion Noel Mikhailian. Apparently, according to Jai, in that same venue. Yeah, you know, Jai for his whole career has sort of worn, I don't know what you call it. It's not shorts. It's the like skirt, for lack of a better term. Sorry to be offensive if that's offensive, but I believe it's sort of rooted in his Samoan heritage, and it's kind of like a family type thing or whatever. He likes to wear those type of quote unquote shorts. I'm going to find it really jarring to see Jai wearing a pair of just straight black Zuffa Boxing, traditional shorts. That's the other thing that, like this, you mentioned the corporate nature of it, and it was just devoid of personality. It was devoid of individualism, which is, another thing that we love about fighters and our sport. Everyone can do their own thing, wear whatever they want. Yeah, it's going to be strange. But I guess more broadly, going back to the original question, what did you make of that signing from Zuffa Boxing with Jai Opetaia?
I love it. So I might be a contrarian with this, but I thought Jay was running the risk of being irrelevant in boxing. It's hard for him to get fights. He's in Australia, and this signing makes people have to talk about him, and he might be the rare fighter that goes from underrated to overrated, because people that really want this to work will probably overrate just how good he is. And he deserves it, because for years and years, he was not put at the level that he deserved to be. So I think, to me, it feels like when Amanda Serrano got with Jake Paul with MVP, she deserved an opportunity like that. Jai Opetaia deserves a Zuffa Boxing to fight some battles for him, because he spent a few years just being someone who a lot of fighters basically didn't have to fight. I never believed Zordo avoided him. I think that was kind of like a bad timing. But he's been like a high-risk, low-reward guy who's kind of a little crazy. And I think it's great. I think it's great that there's an investment behind a fighter whom not a lot of promoters probably would invest in because of the Australian market. Not to crap on your audience or anything, but I just feel like the average capitalist is going to be like, well, how profitable is this? And can we fly? And I think that this is a perfect thing for fans to get introduced to him, and he's got a good, exciting style, and I really just hope it works out.
Yeah, no, it's going to be interesting moving forward. But
how do you feel about it? This is your guy, bro.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the business implications. They've obviously came out and said it makes financial sense. It makes career progression sense. They're saying all the things that I'm assuming they would. Any fighter says when they sign with a new team or a new manager or a new promoter in this case.
Can you imagine if someone was like, it didn't really make that much sense, but we just did it? Like they said the opposite. Could you imagine that press statement? I didn't love everything, but, it was the way we had to go. So,
I got drunk and just signed this contract, so we'll see what happens. But
yeah, I almost want someone to give a statement that's kind of like a unhinged moment, where they're like, well, we don't really know how it's going to go, but we just figured we'd roll the dice. You know, what were our other options? Said so-and-so affiliated with so-and-so.
Yeah, which has probably happened before, but to your point, they just don't say it publicly. But yeah, I don't know. I guess time will tell. We'll give him the benefit of the doubt. I know Jai's got a really smart team, switched on guys that care about him, that he's been with from the start. So I'm definitely assuming that they're not going to make a bad decision for him and the team widely. So yeah, I really don't know what to make it. It came out of nowhere. I thought sort of strengthening the ties with Eddie Hearn would be the logical way that it would go, but they've certainly taken a bit of a detour from that more logical path, at least to my thought process. So yeah, we're going to see. I guess the easy thing to do is really make up our minds on March 9th after that first fight and sort of see where we go from there. But Zuffa said they want nothing to do with the traditional sanctioning bodies. Obviously, Jai's the IBF champion and the Ring Magazine champion. He's fighting a WBC champion on the third or fourth ever Zuffa show. So, they've got their Zuffa have got their boxing promoters hat on, where they will just literally say anything at any time and go back on anything that they've said and claim that they don't lie. So, yeah, it looks like they're going to fit in well.
Yeah, who knows? But good for Jay. He deserves to get exposure, and now people are going to just say his name and probably not be familiar with how he fights or what he does, but it's good for him because he really deserves that.
Yeah, for sure. So time will tell. But, mate, let's get into the big one. We've got a massive weekend. Saturday, your time, Sunday, Australian time. We've got some pretty big cards, but let's not bury the lead and start at the top. The crown jewel in next weekend, Teofimo Lopez defending his WBO 140-pound title against Shakur Stevenson, attempting to win a world title in his fourth weight class. How excited on paper are you for this matchup, Lukie?
Somewhat, but it's like this year is like I haven't really gotten a break. Like last week I kind of got a break, but it's been like kind of matchup after matchup. And I will say, and this might speak to what I enjoyed about Zuffa Boxing, is the pre-fight build-up to this hasn't really got me going. They had a press conference. I'm not getting like the gym videos and all that stuff, but historically interesting fight because there's a case to be made that in the junior welterweight division, Teofimo Lopez probably is the most relevant champion dating back to his win over Taylor. And Shakur is looking to become a 4-division champion. And outside of Adrian Broner, I mean, I think I wrote Kosi Tanaka. There's the Tanaka zone. So Kosi Tanaka is a 4-division world champion, but would he get in the Hall of Fame? I'm not sure. So it's like the Tanaka zone. So it's Tanaka, Adrian Broner, maybe Donnie Netes because people just didn't care. He was really good, but they just don't care. Maybe Mikey Garcia fits there. Maybe Leo Santa Cruz. I'll stop at those. But those are like the ones. When you start getting to 4-division titles, you're basically a Hall of Famer, barring weird things. And it feels like nobody's really excited about Shakur potentially being a 4-division world champion. I haven't heard much of the buildup of that. Maybe I haven't watched it. And with Teofimo, it's like he's been so inconsistent, it's hard to get excited for his fights because part of what the excitement is that, a fighter is going to come to the ring at a certain level. And he's had bad performances and good performances against all different types of opposition. So to answer your question, maybe as the fight gets going, but this is more of like a wait and see because I think that both fighters haven't fully connected with people.
So that's why I sort of asked what your feelings were on paper first, because I'm the same. On paper, I love the matchup. I feel like as fans, all we can ask the best fighters in the world to do is fight each other. That's all we can do. And then the fights will be the fights, the competition will be the competition, and the action or the non-action will be what it is, the style clash, whatever. But all we can do is ask them to fight each other, and they're doing it. So on paper, and I want to see what happens. And we talk about that's on paper. In the ring, I think this is going to be boring as hell. I'm not expecting this to be an exciting fight, but I'm still fired up because I want to see what happens. But yeah, to your point, like Teofimo's so up and down. I thought Sandor Martin beat him. I thought he struggled mightily against Jermaine Ortiz. And what did these two guys do? They stayed on the back foot and they made Teo lead. Teo's not really a guy that's going to get on the front foot and create opportunities. He sort of similar to Andy Cruz, but obviously different. He's going to use his eye and his countering ability and his timing to his advantage and see what you give him and capitalize on top of that. But you put him on the front foot and he's not really fighting to his own strengths. There's absolutely no chance in hell Shakur's going to, start walking him down and go after him. He's going to do what he always does. He's greedy. He doesn't care about the fans. He's there to implement his style, not get hit, shade rounds, and go home with the money unscathed. And I don't blame him for that. So, I think this is a horrible style matchup for Teo. As long as, Shakur's sturdy at the weight, they seem to be a similar size. We'll see on fight night. I thought Muratalla and Andy Cruz were a similar size and body mass until they got in the ring, and there was a bit of a difference there with Muratalla being really thick through the top torso. So we'll see on fight night once they rehydrate. But yeah, if Shakur can handle the physicality of Teofimo, I like him pretty big in this fight. How do you see the style clash playing out, Lukie?
It's hard for me to unsee the Sandor Martin fight with Teofimo Lopez, and I just think that Shakur is a better fighter than Sandor Martin. So the fight really comes down to every now and then Teofimo Lopez has reminded me of Roberto Duran. And if he's that Roberto Duran fighter that I've seen at certain points, anything is possible because we don't know how Shakur takes a punch in this division. We don't know. Well, first you got to hit him.
Really, any division.
But there's a level of physicality that is at this weight might start to occur for Shakur. Shakur is like a wizard. He can disappear and reappear in the ring. But as you move up in weights, the physicality of guys can beat the talent, right? Big guys can start to wear guys out with size as a weapon. So there is the X factor that Teofimo is a big, strong guy, and he's athletic. And he's going to have to weaponize those traits. I think the problem with this is, for me to get excited, is they both kind of work best going backwards. Like the best version of both is when the other person comes to them, which tells me we're going to be seeing a lot of feints and a lot of guys setting their feet, waiting to react to a feint. And there's going to be a lot of kind of 50-50 close rounds because Teo, I don't think, is very effective going forward. I think he's good when he steps back. Shakur can dictate with a jab because he keeps it out there and turns it, but he really likes to go to your body and work off when you come forward. Like he really likes to do target practice on guys at the highest level. I think he might be more. See, I would think Shakur might push a little bit, but at the same time, knowing his fight intelligence, I don't think he's going to go to Teofimo because that's Teofimo's strong suit, and I just don't think Shakur is ever going to play into a fighter's best asset. And what I think is going to happen is we're going to see rounds that are very tactical at a high level, but you have to kind of know some stuff to understand what they're doing.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, mate. But I mean, I'm still excited to see it. I'm excited to see if Teofimo can show us, a style, like he's had one training camp to work on it. Like I think everyone in the boxing world, as you sort of outlined, and I did too, like the onus is on Teo to make this fight happen. I don't think he can beat Shakur, as you pointed out, being on the back foot. I think that'll just end up being a stalemate that Shakur will love and run away with. So the onus is on Teo to create something and make something happen, which historically hasn't been a strong suit of his. So I'm excited to see if that can happen, and I'm excited to see if Shakur can do what he always does. So even though I don't expect action from the fight, I'm still excited for it. Are you excited for it, mate, or is it a bit of a take it or leave it type thing?
I am. It's like every single week, I think and contemplate a fight, and then I start to kind of go into reality and unwind, and then there's another big one coming. So it's like I'm just getting through Muratalla and Cruz, I'm formulating my thoughts, and then we're revving up. I would say it's not like one of the bigger ones where I was excited a week before, but I think this is going to be one where the closer it gets to the fight, the more, because I truly think Shakur Stevenson is a very, very special fighter. And you might not necessarily like his style, but I think he's going to go down there with really, really great fighters. And I think Teofimo has the potential to be that same level fighter. At one point, I thought they were exactly equal in terms of special. And for some reason, Teofimo derailed at a certain point. And I don't know. Sometimes when guys lose momentum in boxing and you fight one of those special guys, it's harder for me to have that childlike joy. But imagine if Teo drops him in the first round. Then we got ourselves a fight that everyone's got to watch. So I think the closer it gets, the more I'm going to talk myself into that could happen.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But let's get into the undercard. We've got Carlos Adames fighting Austin Ammo Williams for the WBC middleweight title. Keyshawn Davis is back at 140 pounds against Jermaine Ortiz. And Bruce Carrington is fighting for the WBC featherweight title against Carlos Castro. What out of that undercard really piques your interest the most, Lukie?
Well, let me just talk more. Keyshawn Davis.
That's the point. That's the point.
Yeah, let me
mate.
just talk more. Keyshawn Davis, after getting a fight that didn't happen with Edwin De Los Santos missing weight, I think that there's a level of maturity with him that's kind of I think that I'm looking to see him take accountability, because I think accountability is in a level of an elite level professional, especially a boxer. And I haven't really seen him handle accountability well. At times, I would say, and it's maybe not his fault, it might be this generation, but he's a little immature, and that can carry over into things in your fighting career. I think he's extremely talented. I think he's extremely gifted, and he's better than a lot of fighters, and he's able to beat them on not just skill, but his ability that he's able to beat a lot of guys. That said, he's hitting that point in an age where if you don't maximize that, there's going to be Raymond Muratalla, who's going to just work hard every single day. And all of a sudden that gap isn't that far. So he's fighting Jermaine Ortiz. Let me look, because I remember Jermaine Ortiz recently had a performance that didn't blow me out of the water. Do you remember it off the top of your head?
I think he's had 3 wins since the Lopez fight, but no, I can't remember it specifically. Which one was it?
I'm doing research.
I thought the Yomar Alamo, which wasn't his last one, was a good performance. Like, Yomar Alamo gave Liam Parrow fits a couple of years ago too. So Yomar Alamo is a good fighter. I thought that was a good win. But yeah, I don't think I saw
it was
his
that
last
fight. And Alamo's a good fighter, but I think that there was like a little. Let me see the weight that was contracted at. Let me see, where is that? I went out of it, but I think that was the fight where I was like, okay, Ortiz doesn't have that same focus that I'm hoping fight to fight. Like, there was things that I didn't love in that fight, but like, this is a test, right, for Davis. Like, this might be an uncomfortable test. The other one that you didn't mention that I'm excited about is Jarrell Big Baby Miller against Kingsley eBay. eBay's a really big puncher who I think had been boxing for 2 years when he fought Jared Anderson and got knocked out. He basically fought for 1 year and fought Guido Vianello to a draw. He's kind of built up a win streak against unheralded journeyman opponents, but I think there's a real chance that he beats Big Baby Miller, and he's just like a random heavyweight, big punching dude. And those kind of guys are always interesting because they can just beat a talented guy on being big, like Martin Bacoli. Yeah. So I think that's one that I'm actually pretty excited about.
Yeah. Well, is it, going to bomb on pay-per-view? It doesn't. The whole card doesn't sort of scream, excitement to more casual sports fans. But I'm quite interested. And the one I would pick out of the undercard is the Keyshawn Davis's return too. And it'll be interesting with Jermaine Ortiz to see if, unlike Teofimo was unable to when he fought him, how Keyshawn goes creating his own offense and sort of getting on the front foot, with Jermaine Ortiz kind of having a little bit more of a negative passive style. So certainly some interesting stuff to keep an eye on, but we'll keep moving.
Can I add something about Jermaine Ortiz? He's really good at making fights close and awkward, but he's not as good as winning fights. Yeah. So when he's at the highest level, he's kind of a spoiler in that sense, in that he knows how to make a fight close enough where some fans might think he won the fight, but he hasn't quite mastered the art where the judges think that he won the fight.
Yeah. So, and interesting on his point to your point, sorry, on that fight, has he turned the corner on that? Is he able to do it? It seems like you're getting Keyshawn at the right time, at least in terms of, the court of public opinion. He's down and out when he blew weight, which is unfortunate for him, but we'll see how he bounces back. So there are a few storylines for that fight in particular, but we'll move over to the UK, which will be earlier that morning. So we've kind of jumped around non-chronologically, but Bahkram Murtazaliev is finally back. It's been ages since he knocked out Tim Tszyu, and he's fighting Josh Kelly, finally defending that IBF super welterweight world title. I mean, I'm sure you're just as relieved as I am to finally see Bahkram back in the ring, but what have you made of his absence, and what do you make of this fight coming up on the weekend?
Boxing's hard. It's hard to stay active. I'm excited, but I also think this is a very close fight. I think that the way Tim Tszyu fought Bahkram was the worst way to fight him. I think there's also like a bit of like overvaluing where he sits in the sport. I think this fight comes down to Josh Kelly's conditioning. I think there is a world where Kelly could, if he's durable enough and fast enough, he could outbox him. The problem is he's faded to lesser opposition and gotten tired and gotten beat up. Speaking to David Avanesian, obviously, and it's hard to unsee that. So I think we're either going to see the birth of a monster, like a Better Beeve-like fighter, where you're like, oh my God, this guy's way better than we thought. Or it's going to be Murtazaliev's going to be a gravity guy. He's going to come back to earth, and we're going to, oh, Tim Tszyu made this guy look way better than maybe he should have. That's kind of how I see it.
Yeah, me too, mate. And I still maintain to this day that I think the best version of Tim Tszyu can beat that version of Bahkram Murtazaliev. Tim could not, you pointed it out, I'll add on to it more, could not have fought more into Bahkram Murtazaliev's hands in that fight. One of the more insane, stubborn, brave and courageous, absolutely no doubt, but more defensively unintelligent performances of any Australian fighter in recent memory, that's for sure. So I think that's going to be the one that, what's going on here? Hang on. I think we've just stopped. No, we're back. You there, Lukie? Well, hang on, mate. We've lost Lukie's audio.
I bumped into a thing and my wireless mic went out.
Okay. All good, mate. It looks like we're all back up and running now. It's podcasting, mate. Where would we be without a technical difficulty or two? But yeah, that's going to be interesting. And you mentioned David Evanesian as the loss in Josh Kelly's career, and he was sort of out-physicaled and out-powered by a smaller guy towards the end of his career. I mean, I'm not expecting Bahkram to fall off a cliff with this year and a bit of inactivity. So, to your point, does Josh have that footwork ability, the agility, the stamina to stay away and outbox and keep turning and change the angles on Murtazaliev for 12 rounds? Probably, but if he gets hit, it could be a slippery slope and one that goes downhill pretty fast for Josh Kelly, especially considering he doesn't really have a true world-class win at 154 pounds. So we shall see. But someone in the co-main you just mentioned earlier, mate, Josh Padley's back. Had a couple of wins since the loss to Shakur Stevenson, fighting a guy called Jahoud Belmedi, who I'm not super familiar with. Also down at super featherweight too for Josh Padley, but certainly a name we should keep an eye on. And sort of the triple G of female boxing, Alif Nurturhan, and I did not even realise this till this week, how bad am I, is fighting Australian Taylor Jensen for the IBF World Lightweight title down on that card too. What have you made of Turhan, mate? She was a bit of a whirlwind in the last 12 months, sort of announcing herself on the world scene. Have you been keeping up with her progress, mate?
Well, I really pushed for her to be the Women's Boxer of the Year from Boxing Scene, and she did win the award. I don't really understand how you could give it to someone else last year, because she won 3 fights, all possibly as underdogs and all by knockout. That's not normal in women's boxing. And I get that she's like very crude and it doesn't look good, but she knocked out one of the best up and coming champions in Beatrice Vieira. She shows a will to compete. And I think that she's one of the she's kind of like the anti-Alicia Bumgardner, where Bumgardner, there's obvious talent there, but there's a lot of social media and pizzazz and flash. It's like Turhan, there's no pizzazz. There's no social media component. It's just she's a scary puncher and she wants to hurt you. And it's kind of refreshing when some of these like people who they don't talk to you about, like, you know how you get these memes where it's like, I'd rather have 1 million followers than $1 million because I know the power of a brand. Like Turhan's just give me $1 million and I'll just figure out what I'm doing. And it's kind of refreshing rather than having like some stupid social media business class person talk to you about stuff that you don't need to waste your time on. I kind of like it when there's just fighters who fight, who earn achievements, and then they're in these fights. And look, she fought in December. She's fighting January 25th. It's like she's building a real career, and a lot of people are missing out on like a really fun fighter.
How old are you, Lukie? If you don't mind me
40.
asking. 40, yeah. I'm 38 in a couple of weeks, so like I'm the same. I just paid zero attention to press conferences, like social media. I just couldn't care less. So, even if fighters do sort of take that route, I just do not have the energy for it anymore. So, maybe that's just a part of getting older too. But
The power of a brand, you got to understand. The
Yeah.
content team is with me.
Fair enough, mate. But yeah, also we'll jump on just the last one, mate, before I stop chewing your ear off. And you might be able to help us here on some broadcast details, because as of right now, I have no idea. But Xander Zayas is in a super welterweight unification. So it's a massive weekend at 154 pounds against Abass Baraou, who is bringing in the WBA title. That's why it's not listed on BoxRec here. Top Rank 6 months without a TV deal. They've got one of their fighters in a legit unification, and as far as I know, there's no way to watch it. Can you enlighten us on a way to be able to view this fight, Lukie? Or is
so
there...
you can, yes.
Yeah.
It's going to be on what they call fast channels, which is Top Rank's Classics, I believe, and it'll be on like Roku and all those smart TV device platforms. So there's a live channel component called Top Rank Classics, and it'll be on at that time.
Okay. Is that available internationally or just within the US?
I would check your local listings, but
Okay.
I would hope that that's the way it is, because it would feel as though that should be universal, right?
Yeah, I would hope so. Seemed to be a massive backward step if it wasn't. But yeah, okay, cool. We'll keep our eyes peeled on that. But what do you make of the matchup, mate? Big unification at 154 against some pretty unheralded guys, I guess, to be fair. But are you excited for it? What are you expecting to see?
I'm excited. A little spoiler detail: I believe I'm on live coverage too, so you get to see
Brilliant.
me cover this one too.
In Puerto Rico?
No, in my living room, but I'm going to be writing about it for the website. I mean, Zayas, like typically when you have a fighter like Zayas, he wins fights like this, right? Like 9 times out of 10, a guy who signed at 16 years old, who gets himself to a world title, goes into a unification gout. They're both training in the same area, basically. One's in Davie, Florida, one's in Miami, very close. So that's an interesting subcomponent, because both teams are going to know stuff about each other because people aren't that loyal. The most interesting thing to me about the fight is the backdrop. It's Xander's first fight in Puerto Rico with a world title. Baraou, to me, is a puncher. He's kind of a brawler who has good reflexes and can counterpunch, and got Telly's because he got him moving and caught him. Xander's best path to winning, to me, and I'm not the smartest guy probably, is boxing. How does he handle the emotion of being in Puerto Rico and the crowd to fight a composed fight? That's the story of the fight to me, because Baraou, to me, Baraou is very limited, but he's very quick. So if you limit the exchanges with him, he's not going to have a lot he can do. He's a counterpuncher. He's good. So I think that it's more about how he handles this moment, because this is a potential superstar moment for him, but it's also a potential nightmare. So I think the story to me is, how does Xander handle being the next Puerto Rican great fighter?
Yeah, and he's a young man too. He's only in his early 20s, isn't he? So, again, that's something I never even thought about, Lukie. That's definitely something to keep an eye on. But man, this is gigantic. Like a unification this early in your career, this could really are we bordering on like a Fernando Vargas sort of type of
We're
recent
that type of thing, and I think no one's talking about it because there was a preconceived notion, because he was so young fighting on these cards, that he was being matched soft to a certain extent. Then no one's giving him credit when he's taking harder fights, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I guess the thing about Zayas that sort of always stuck out to me is like really solid in all areas, but doesn't really have that one thing that separates him, whether it be power or elite speed or, sensational eyes. Really solid and ticks all the boxes, but there isn't that one sort of special intangible that kind of separates him.
Intangible is work ethic, and that's the weirdest one, because you don't know if that's going to translate, because you have to, your work ethic has to outlast and out triumph speed, strength.
Yeah.
That, to me, that's his great trait, is that he outworks guys.
Yeah, oh mate, absolutely. That's a great point too. But it's going to be interesting. I feel like Baraou, they're kind of, I think, sort of similar. I would probably put Baraou in that sort of category as well. Solid across the board, but sort of doesn't have that one special huge ability that kind of you can put your lights out or turn a fight with. But two pretty fundamentally solid guys going against each other. I think it's going to be a points fight, but I'm hoping it's available internationally, because I'll be watching Teo Shakur live. I imagine they're going to be happening at the same time, but it's definitely one that I want to catch up with before the weekend's over for sure. But just finally, Lukie, anything on that undercard we should keep our eye on, mate?
The one I'd stand out for is Rohan Polanco. He's an interesting welterweight contender. He's solid, and I think that he has the chance to contend for a world title. You could match him with pretty much anybody and it'd be a good fight. So he's kind of in that holding pattern guys sometimes get in, seeing how he does. And Giovanni Santillan is on the undercard. I believe he's making his 154-pound debut. If Xander were to win and makes a mandatory title or a voluntary title defense, that might be a name that you could see. That stands out to me, that he's fighting on the same card as Xander. So if he were to win, that could be a fight in the future. So that's something to watch.
Excellent. I'm looking at the box rate right now. I never even went over to the right-hand side of that column and looked at Super Welter. So I didn't even know that. So thanks for pointing me in the right direction again, Lukie. But Lukie, that'll do us, mate. Thanks again for your time, mate. Always enjoy every time I'm lucky enough to get to have a chat with you, mate. But I have mentioned before that you have one of the most prolific channels and platforms in all of boxing. It's sort of the opposite of me, which I am taking inspiration from you and really upping the content frequency this year. Hopefully this is our third show of January, so we're certainly off to a good start, but that's going to be my challenge all year to keep it up. But mate, what do you got coming up on your platforms for 2026? Is there any special things or ideas that you're working on that you're going to debut on either your YouTube, podcast, or Substack, mate? What can we expect from you throughout the year?
Not that adventurous. I probably should come up with it. For the Substack, more awards, so it's easier to kind of get a sense of the year. So towards the end, I got positive feedback that I kind of have a mailbag that I call the once a week podcast. So if you have questions, you're dying to hear my thoughts, you can get them there. But the big thing is consistency, right? It's more so a news platform. It's more so to kind of try to give people that, they're lawyers, accountants, or whatever, truck drivers, school teachers, maybe they work at a gas station, who knows, a wide variety of people. And to just make them enjoy boxing, to give them things to look at, to give them things to think about. It could be right or it could be wrong, but to share my passion for the sport or what I've learned and observed from the sport. So then maybe when they go, they can talk to their buddies and bring a different perspective to it. So the goal isn't really to innovate. It's more so just to provide the best quality content and the best quality analysis so that people can really enjoy the sport and to grow the sport. Honestly, is my main mission is to present content that seems rational, fair, and can make people that don't watch boxing go, wow, that was fun to listen to. I want to watch one more fight and one more fight. So the sport itself from my content can grow a bit.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome, mate. Well, I think you do a fantastic job, Lukie. Super inspiring to see you always just grinding hard, whether it's through boxing scene and all your work on there or your own platforms, which you've spoken about as well, mate. So I will have all the links for your Substack, boxing scene author page, and the YouTube channel all in the description of this episode, so everyone can click on and follow along with you for a massive 2026, mate. But just stay on the line, Lukie. This will take a couple of minutes to upload, mate. But thanks again for the time, mate, and hopefully we can do it a little bit down the track.
Home away from home.
All right, guys, and that was my chat with Luke Ketelle, aka Lukie Boxing. Always a ton of fun. And also, guys, like literally not even 5 minutes after this, Lukie was like, "Hey man, want to go live on my channel?" I was like, all right. So we did another hour live on Lukie's channel, largely about all the same fights. We just tried to tackle it from a couple of different angles that we didn't get to on this chat, which happened to be chronologically before it. So yeah, if you want to check that out, guys, just type in Lukie Boxing on YouTube and you'll be good to go. Also, all of Lukie's outlets that he contributes to, including his very own Substack and also his author page at boxingscene.com, are in the description of this episode. episode. So click along and follow along and consume one of the most prolific boxing content creators in the game, and a man who has personally been very, very generous to me all the way from the other side of the planet. Invited me onto his show multiple times, which I massively appreciate, and is truly a bit of a thrill. So yeah, massive shout out to Lukie and a big thank you, and I'm sure I'll be talking to him on some platform one way or another before the year is done. So guys, we have so many good fights to look forward to this weekend. So although I haven't planned anything yet, I really want to keep the momentum rolling. We've got absolutely jam-packed fights next weekend. So you know what? I haven't got a plan. I haven't reached out to anyone yet, but I might try and get something out midweek next week. So let the dust settle a little bit after the fights. Maybe midweek we'll go for something in a review style. And obviously I haven't even looked at the schedule, but we'll look at what's coming up and we'll go from there. So yeah, definitely want to keep the ball rolling. We'll see how we go, fingers crossed. But guys, if you want to get in contact with me, you can do that at TUSCPod@gmail.com. That's sending me an email at TUSCPod@gmail.com. Or if you want to throw a tweet at me, you can do that at delivery_man2. Guys, also got the Insta page out there, and also the YouTube, guys, which our last video with Lyndon did really good views. I know it's really difficult to grow things when they're so new and inconsistent, which the YouTube has been for me, but our last episode was the biggest one we've done yet, which is still not, earth-shatteringly amazing numbers, but I mean, for me, it was a huge milestone, and I'm sure that's a lot of crossover audience from Lyndon, from his own channel, and people wanting to watch his appearance. But you never know, a few people might stick around and check out a little bit of what we do on the TUSC POD channel. But yeah, so guys, really going to try and put a good effort into the continued growth of the YouTube channel. So if you want to get on and subscribe there, feel free. Again, not telling you what to do, it's all good either way. But guys, we have got some huge fights this weekend. So as always, enjoy the fights, and I'll chat to you later.
Well, let's travel, may add up the change. Living like there's no tomorrow, then tomorrow came. Going all out. I was living like there's no tomorrow, then tomorrow came. I got the wake-up call, laughing through the window frame.